一つだけお願いがあります。いなくなってしまった人たちのこと、時々でいいから思い出してください。
This is the Every FNFF podcast, and I'm Curtis.
I'm Carl.
I'm Alex.
I got no snarky intro this time because this is dead serious, baby.
Broska's... No, wait, not Broska. You Yevon's dead.
I mean, also...
Well, Broska's also dead.
Yeah. I mean, who the fuck isn't dead in this game? Let's get real.
You know who's dead in this game? Titus.
You, Yevon, motherfucker.
Anyone in here that ain't dead?
This is the last episode, boys.
Yeah.
This
last
is it?
episode ever.
Ever.
Oh my God.
How, actually, hold on. You know what? While we're talking about it, when did we start this season? It's been a long one. It's been like a whole year, hadn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
July?
I think it was like June or July that we started.
Okay, well, not a whole year. We started in the sweaty times.
Yeah, I want to boot up.
Yeah, we started in July 3rd. In July 3rd.
In July 3rd.
'Twas the 3rd of July.
And all through the house, not a creature was snoring.
Yeah, I'm gonna see. I don't have my first save file, but I think I can look back because I have all of my save files. I just went throughout the entire game.
What am I doing? I forgot that it is customary to get game time at the end of our seasons.
Oh, Jesus
so let me
Christ.
boot up FF10 real quick.
Oh my God, dude. So I'm looking at my first quote unquote first save file when I was only an hour into playing. And this is when we first started. My playtime is like an hour and 11 minutes. It's my third save file. And we were on the salvage ship deck. That was July 1st, 2020.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. All right, so we'll actually talk about our playtimes at the end once we've discussed the rest of the thing.
I started playing in May 30th of 2020.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, that's like next month.
I distinctly remember Curtis saying, this is going to be like a fucking year-long series. And I'm like, there's no way.
That doesn't make sense.
I was like, that's impossible.
Yeah, my first one's from June, but I had saved over my original save, so... Whomst knows? The point is, ladies and gents, it's been a minute. It's been 1 year since we started this
game.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a long fucking year.
It has. But we are done. This is it. This is the end of FF10. Ready to put it to bed and tuck it in and give it a kiss on the forehead and then smother it while it sleeps.
And then never return.
Playtime is over as of last episode.
But what did we just do? We just killed God. We just dethroned the Lord.
We stepped on this bug.
Yeah.
We crushed this bug.
I mean, we also, through the course of the game, I guess we kind of... More so, we like killed L. Ron Hubbard. I think that's more accurate of a take on it.
We heard Otherworld for the last time. My soul cries a little bit because of that.
Yeah.
No more jug wow.
Well, if you follow a streamer on Twitch named TheBeast721 and someone raids him, that riff is the alert that plays. And I heard that so many times, like before actually playing FF10 or like associating like the two. So like when it came in towards the end of the game, I was like, oh, holy shit, that's what that is.
That's incredible.
Hell yeah.
But anyway, when we left off, we literally were watching you, Yevon, fade away, right? Like that was the last thing that we saw.
And the screen turned white.
Yep. And instead of like coming back up into a scene with our party, it comes back up into Besaid Village, right?
Yeah, there's a nice little bonfire going on. There's some chocobos there, some old friends there. And I think all the Aurochs are there.
All the Aurochs are there. Either Luzu or Gata is there.
Yeah, depending on... Or if you got the good ending, both of them are there.
Okay, I was making sure you're joking.
Just kidding. There is no good ending.
Yeah.
Elma, Lucille, Kalaskos, if you told him to stay in the, I guess.
Oh, true. Machen is there.
How did he get there so fast? I feel like we just saw him at Hagaset.
Well, also, I think this scene has a weird implication that everybody in the world can see what the party is doing.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm not like Okay, so I watched an episode of Vsauce on YouTube last night that said that the extent of human sight is somewhere about 5 miles on the best, clearest day, and you're elevated and can see forever. They're like, or I guess it's 5 kilometers. It's a little bit more than 5 miles. That's the furthest away that a human can see. And I'm like, no, there's no way.
Like, I get that Sin is big and he's at, you know, atop the main city in this world or whatever, but that's still...
Yeah. The curvature of the Earth would not permit this.
Maybe people just saw, like, the blast wave or something in the Flash.
And just assumed that everything went well.
Yeah, that can only mean one thing.
Yeah.
They're like, I haven't really been alive for long enough to remember the last calm.
Maybe there's just something that happens at every beginning of every calm that they're like, oh, it happens. And like, I don't know, they see something happening, but they don't realize it's going to be the eternal calm.
Yeah, it's like a good feeling.
Good vibes.
the vibes
Everybody just gets
good.
a little high. All at once.
I think someone just runs out and says, I got news for the war front. We won.
But yeah, so like the people start cheering, right? Like, so like, I guess like the implication is that everybody around the world can see this and realizes that Sen has been defeated, so they're all like cheering and clapping and shit, right?
I do like how Goofy and just super synchronized the Aurochs are, because
it's all the same character model. Yeah,
they're all clapping in the sync.
I love that the
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Better than us when we're trying to sync up the audio. But I also love that the Chocobo is like dancing and like, you know, it's still wearing the armor like it's a Chocobo knight.
No, that's the thing he does when he wants someone to ride him. We remember. When's someone gonna ride me?
But we do get a cool shot after that. We see the faith inside the temples, right?
Oh yeah, the camera kind of zooms past Machen at the entrance to the temple.
Yeah, and like the priest there.
Yeah, and it shows like that statue of Velfor that's like encased in that that translucent jewel or whatever.
If we made time to go back and visit it.
That translucent tent that it believes gives it sexual powers.
That's a half truth. But it turns into stone, right? It like starts to dissolve and turns into stone.
Yeah, this is like the same story as like the ancient Greeks. Everyone thinks like they were just all unpainted marble statues, but no, they were painted. It was much more.
I thought you were going to say, no, they were human at one point.
I thought you were going to say this is the same story as that guy in Pompeii when the eruption happened and he was just jacking off, so he's forever encased in like stone, like pounding his rod.
Oh, don't make me a faith while I'm jerking it. just permanently encased in one of the temples.
No.
Legend.
Calling me, please.
That man is truly the champion of jacking off. But anyway, we get similar scenes at other temples where we see other like faith encased in that weird goo as they're all kind of just turning into statues. And I think it's
really
like the third one.
Mid-century like Jell-O salads.
Oh yeah.
It's like full of fruit and lettuce and stuff.
Fruit and lettuce and whatever makes an Aeon an Aeon.
Yo, that'd be a really good dish to make. Just like a nice like Jell-O.
Oh, that would be really cute.
You put like a little statue inside.
Yeah, I mean, put that
make a little treat of the fucked up like hybrid Aeon / like faith.
Right. Yeah, and at some point we see the Bahamut faith, right? And we actually see baby Bahamut, as we've been calling him, the little kid, like translucently floating over top of his own statue, and then he fades away.
Yeah.
Faith be gone.
Yep. Is this the part where we see the wall of faith disappear?
No, then it goes back to Xanarkand, or to where we are. And we see Yuna doing her sending dance.
Yeah, so Yuna's doing the sending, and
what are we assuming she's doing this for? Is it for like Jacked or something else?
I think for Jacked and Yevon probably.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just for everything.
Yeah, but as she does
this place is full of fiends.
This is the final sending.
But as she's doing it, Orin starts to fade away, right? And she
he starts, some fireflies start popping off of him.
Yeah, and she stops for a second. She's like, "Oh shit," I didn't mean to send him.
I'm sorry, Orin. I didn't mean to be so insensitive.
And he says, "Don't stop." And then she kind of like wants to object, and is like,
she's like, but
and he goes,
"It's all right."
And he starts to walk forward, and like I love it. Like as he walks forward, he smacks Kimari on the chest, like, "Good job, bro." Like, it's so very cute.
Good.
I like it, yeah. And
but
says,
we see everyone's like face as he's passing them and stuff, and they all look kind of concerned. Titus just looks like confused and a little pissed off.
But yeah, Orin says,
"You're like my second dad."
Yeah.
Orin says,
"It's been long enough."
And I'm like, oh, it's so good. And while this happens, Orin's theme is playing, and it's like so fucking cowboy. It's awesome.
It's so fucking good.
It's so good because like. It's kind of it's cowboyish but a little goofy too at the same time, and it just like really is Orin in a song. It's like really well written for him, I think.
Yeah, it's like one part yeehaw, one part gulh.
Yeah. But yeah, and he eventually starts to dissolve into fireflies, and he just like looks at the camera and says,
"This is your world now."
Dude, he puts his fucking sword on his like shoulder and says that, looking straight into the camera, which is
he wants the last thing they see to be something real fucking cool.
Yeah,
and it is real fucking cool. Also, it's the last thing that is said in game rendered models.
Yes. Now we can take screenshots.
My screenshots, because on Switch, when it gets to like the actual final cutscene, similarly to how we saw in Final Fantasy VII, like you can't take screenshots of like spoilery parts, I guess, or whatever. So mine just has that. It shows Orin like becoming a bunch of fireflies and like just floating up into the sky, and then the next thing is just the end.
Yeah, so I have that too. Yeah, but yeah, so
but it's
from
not.
Here
that's
on
not
out,
the end. Yeah, we have pretty fucking kick-ass.
We have like 10 more minutes of content at least.
Yeah. From here on out, it's just FMVs, and like gorgeous FMVs too.
They're
like
so
really
good.
I think Orin's like last line, I think, is kind of like a needle in one of the themes of this game, which is kind of like tradition.
Yeah.
Whereas like there's a new age coming in. This is yours to make it now. Like the cycle's broken.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty cool.
It's really
right,
good.
yeah, because like up until this point, the only thing we know about Spira for the last 1,000 years, right, is that literally everything in the entire world revolves around this fucking cycle, this like kaiju battle, like
revolves
their
around
religion
sin,
does,
therefore revolves around death, and like the fucking leaders of this world are all
the
dead.
opposite of the Watchmen ending.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah, I guess it's
like we killed the big giant monster.
We didn't create it to.
Yeah. No, I agree though. That it's a good way to leave off.
Yeah,
it's like cool.
Much like in Watchmen, this also solves racism.
One people.
But
what was that Queen's song? It was One Vision. That's what I was thinking of. One man, one goal. One mission. One heart, one soul. Just one sore loser. One flesh, one bone, one true religion.
So when the screen comes back up, we're at Live Aid 81 and Queen is playing.
Freddie Mercury's pants are extremely tight.
Another one bites the dust.
Extremely tight in all respects.
81. When was Live Aid?
85.
85. Had it right the first
Nailing
time.
it, as always. nailing the facts.
So this FMV begins, and this FMV is fucking pretty. Like, it is like...
It's very beautiful. It's very sad
to space,
too.
Like the beautiful astral sky, and we see Yuna doing her sending dance on board the Fahrenheit.
Yeah, and the Fahrenheit is like just above cloud level, right? And it's like dusk, I guess, or maybe
End
dawn.
Of Evangelion kind of thing.
Yeah, and like all the clouds are like golden looking, and we can see like the night sky above us, and like beside us is Sin's giant fucking like dorsal fin or whatever, just poking up through the clouds, and it's like still enormous, right?
Yeah.
Like it's incredible looking.
Well, we blew off its fins, its dorsal fins.
Wait.
Whichever.
No,
yeah, wait.
Is dorsal? Because the dorsal's the top, right?
Oh wait, dorsal is the butt fin. Sorry.
Yeah.
Or is it? No, wait. Am I wrong?
I think the dorsal's the top one.
Oh, the top. Okay, yes, the top back.
The topmost.
But yeah, so around the Fahrenheit, we see like all the Aeons, not incling our bonus ones, which is very much at the end of FF7, where we don't see Vincent or Yuffie in any of the FMVs.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. This is Yojimbo erasure, and I will not stand for it.
Yojimbo is going to be in the Dirge of Cerberus. It's going to fill in the gap of what he was up to. He was making sure Bavel was getting evacuated or whatever, right?
Yeah, right.
That's my guess of what from. Yuffie's there too.
Yeah. Weirdly, Vincent and Yuffie are in this cutscene though, so that's kind of cool.
Like what? But it's funny because like we've like the camera's backs away. We see Anima is like like the closest to the Fahrenheit for some reason, and just hanging out right up on the nose. And I'm getting real personal, but yeah, like we see Sin just kind of falling from the sky and explodes into just a massive orange.
Goo.
Not devastating. It just turns
much
into
like the end of Evangelion, a translucent orange goo.
Well, and Yuna's doing the sending dance on top of the Fahrenheit, right? And she's sending the Aeons as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which
like, as soon as you
actually is kind of
like,
weird. Why do we need to send the Aeons if we just killed them all?
They're like faith adjacent. I think it's kind of the same sort of thing. I mean, like, how many times have our Aeons died in battle and we just brought them back?
I know, but
I think their
like,
connection with the faith and stuff, it's like, yeah, we killed them, but I mean,
but
like,
it does make me, for me, it makes it seem like
it's a little clunky.
Oh, we could have just done this and like they would have been fine.
Well, I don't know, because like it's not like you could just send Seymour like immediately if he wasn't dead.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we could have. We just never fucking did it.
The answer, much like everything else in Final Fantasy X, is just fireflies.
It's all painted fireflies. But yeah, I love the music that's playing, which is like this orchestral version of the Hymn of the Faith, and it's like a very more like it's just morose. A sadder version of it. It's like a very it's like that. I always get teared up every time you hear like a sad harmonization of like the main theme.
Yeah.
For me, I've gone on the record many times saying this, but this is like the #1 emotion that music should try and evoke. Where it's like kind of triumphant, kind of like, you know, it's something that's like really catchy, but it's also very sad.
Yeah,
like if you listen to this outside of the context of it, you'd be like, oh, this is kind of a sad song, but you might not, you know, really know why it's so sad. And then like hearing it with all of this going on, you're just like, oh,
it's like the end of Empire Strikes Back. You're like, you're still hearing like the Force theme, but it's just like, man, this is a bummer. This whole ending of this is a bummer.
And this does have a lot of sad gravity to it too, because like Yuna is sending all of these things at once. Like she is like the cap on this story, you know what I mean? So she's like sending all these Aeons that were her friends, and then she's sending Sin, which is like the purpose for her life up to this point. And
she
so
sent
like
Auron
she just
moments
sent Auron
before this, who like, and like just thinking about it in terms of that, it's like Auron has been so clutch throughout this entire game. These Aeons have been so clutch throughout this entire game, where you're like, you know, like you grow attached to these like characters, and then it's just like, oh yeah, like it's for the best and it's what they want, but like this is still very sad. It's like, you know, putting the dog to sleep, you know?
Yeah.
We do cut to Mount Gagazet, where we saw like the pillar of like what was it?
Yeah, the wall of faith. Oh yeah,
the wall of faith.
And that big funnel of energy. Yeah.
I'm rewatching the video now as well. And just seeing like the actual sending of the Aeons is so good.
Yeah.
Like the way that they just burst into fireflies and stuff as Sin is like still like falling, descending. And like the shot of Sin next to the airship after we like, you know, killed Yevon, and him just like going limp and starting to fall is like really good.
Yeah.
All these faith that are stuck in the wall, they're all just becoming statues now.
Yeah. And like that pillar, that like energy pillar or water pillar or whatever it is, like it starts to not fall back
like
down,
dissipate.
But dissipate a little bit, and in the middle of it, kind of like a little like water orb appears and starts to also dissipate.
It's Spheromorph back for revenge.
Yeah. The actual like final boss is Spheromorph again. But it kind of like breaks apart into hundreds of tiny little individual balls, right? and each one of those balls, the camera like closes up on them and shows that they have like people's faces on them. So those are either like the Faith themselves or like the people that were being summoned by them, right?
Yeah, it's like the dream of the Faith. Like this is like the citizenship of Dream Zanarkand is how I took it.
Yeah, right. I think that's correct.
Yeah, and then we see one that has
one very specific one.
Yeah,
that
and
is
it's Titus.
Yeah.
Oh, so I think this kind of was kind of unclear in the game, but it says in the wiki that in the world of Spear, the Faith are the souls of people who are willingly underwent a ritual that removed their souls from their still living bodies and sealed into stone tablets. So they have to be sent still because they are still on Spear.
Living.
They aren't actually.
It did tell us that. There was a point in the game where it did say that.
It's so easy to miss. Like, wait, why didn't you send the Faith? But
it's also it's one of these things where it's like a very convoluted story in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of stuff, and it's given to you in such a drip feed where you don't know like everything. That like when they say it to you, you're like, oh, cool. I still have no idea what any of this fucking shit means. So now we finally have like the context for it all, and it's like there's no way that you'll remember every little like detail about it unless you've played through it a couple of times or like knew what any of it meant at the time of you like hearing about it.
Yeah. But I do like that it's also been a question the whole game is like, what is being summoned, what is Sin doing, and like, you know, all of this kind of stuff, and like it was all kind of in service of this dream Zanarkand, and like now the dream is over, right? Yeah. And so like, yeah, we see that bubble, we see Titus's face in it, and then when it cuts back to the ship, like the very first scene we get is of Waka looking around, just being like, "Ooh, how mystical, how magical!"
Real goofball hours over here. Doesn't even notice that his friend is Marty McFlying right in front of him, because like it goes right from
and then
Titus in
holds
the
out the photograph
to,
like, and like
he starts fucking up the guitar riff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he's like. The bubble with Titus in it kind of just like transitions into like the scene that we're in where we see Titus, like, you know, our Titus right there in front of us with like Waka like looking around, and he looks down at his hands and he starts like becoming like invisible and like
holographic.
Yeah, it's really cool looking. Like it's like he's not just like becoming like there's a lot of beautiful colors with it.
Yeah. And then I have like not a screenshot, but it's still on the YouTube channel. I'm like, I have the video pulled up with me or whatever. Yuna looks back at him, and like the look on her face is just like so like, oh, you son of a bitch, you're gonna do it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like I cannot believe you.
Yeah, we fucking talked about this, dude.
Yeah,
and then she does like a very sad, like quick head shake, like no, like. You're not doing this. I know. I know.
Happening.
She's like, I knew this has been coming for a very long time. We talked about it. I knew you were lying when you were saying that stuff, like for my, like on my behalf, and like this shit is not happening.
I know, and it sucks too because it's like Yuna did all the dirty work for all of this, and then she just gets like the worst luck in return. You know what I mean? Her reward is that like the person who she loves most is just gone forever, kind of thing.
It's very poetic too, just because it's like up until this point it was like she was like, well, this is going to be my role and this is what I'm doing to everyone.
She
like
I am to terms with her own death that she was not ready for.
Not
she
the
didn't
one
have to worry about grieving because
right,
you don't grieve yourself. Like I'm assuming, but
yeah, you like.
But now she wasn't prepared for this.
Gonna...
Oh wait, we're like falling for someone and then immediately having them torn away.
Yeah, right.
It sucks.
And and Titus really says, Yuna, I have to go. I'm sorry I couldn't show you Zanarkand.
My planet needs me.
I was gonna say that, but I was like, this scene is actually extremely sad. And I'm so glad you said it.
But he starts walking away from the rest of the group, and he says goodbye. And Walk is like, oh, hey. And Riku goes, we're gonna see you again. And I'm like, I wonder if Riku does know what's going on. And then Yuna runs after him, and like as she runs after him, she like goes to grab him, right?
He's
and,
like he's getting ready to catch her too.
Yeah, right. He turns around to like catch her and embrace her, and she like phases through him, like he is now a Ghostbusters ghost. Like it's you know what I mean? He's like
he's a hologram.
Through him. He's a hologram.
And like the facial expressions here are like this is
my goodness.
This is like the height of the tech. Like we've complained before about weird character models and stuff, but that is not present here at all. This is all like completely rendered and stuff. So the facial, like you can see Yuna's like
when she hits the floor, she expects there to be a solid person there. And so when she walks through him, she falls down and just like smacks into the deck, right? And it does show this close up on her face that is just like tragic looking.
Yeah,
like,
and like
so
as
sad.
that happens, there's just like this really great shot of Titus just standing there with like a beautiful like pastel like green, like very vaporwave looking like sky behind him, and just like fireflies like floating up.
Yeah, right.
I'm just realizing that the image of fireflies is very much like evocative of like how Japanese ghosts are portrayed, how they have like little floating like sprites kind of and flame wicks kind of floating around them. I just realized that.
Yeah, and it shows Yuna's
definitely.
like face that Curtis was talking about, and like a firefly is like right in front of her and just like floating up like right in front of her.
The art direction of this is so good.
She's not even like looking at it. She's just like staring off into the distance because she knows what's about to happen.
I know.
And then there's like the
so
shot,
rough.
like the faraway shot of the ship still like just floating on this glowing like orange cloud from Sin exploding. It's so good.
But
it's like a reverse like sunrise. It's really
it's like like the sunlight is under the clouds. Yeah, it's really interesting. But she gets on her feet, right, and she just kind of like is looking off into the distance. She's not even looking at him at this point. And then Carl, I can't deal with it. It's too special.
She says it like the same way Titus says "I hate you."
Yeah. She's just very
very quick and like under her breath, like I love you.
Yeah, she just says, I love you, and it's fucking soul crushing.
Now that parallel makes me wonder, like, oh, what does she mean to say this for a while, kind of thing? Like,
yeah, well, she almost said it in the sphere thing. I think there was a couple of points where she like got close to saying it, and like even like Lulu tried hinting at this like to Titus like before. Like Lulu saw all of this happening, but like, you know, she's like, okay, I can finally tell him, but it's too late.
But it's too late. That's the tragedy of it. My soul.
Yeah, and she just like closes her eyes a little bit, and Titus turns around, and he also looks just destroyed.
He looks devastated too. Yeah.
Yeah, and he just kind of walks up to her, and there's a very like Patrick Swayze ghost moment.
Yeah,
where he wraps his arms around her and like is like holding her, and I guess like he's still kind of phasing through her. Like,
yeah, he's doing his best to make it make sense.
Yeah, like he's compensating for it because he can't actually hold her, but like his head is like clipping through her, and that's not because of like bad graphics or anything. It's like very much like
it's kind of like Blade Runner 2, the new one. I mean.
Oh yeah, right.
But then he like walks through her, and now he's like fading in and out and like different rainbow colors and stuff, and it shows Yuna, and then behind Yuna is like the rest of the party minus Oren obviously, and Riku's doing a thing where she's like jumping up and
waving,
waving,
she's like sending him off like he's going on a voyage. Just like it's really sweet.
Like, oh, see you soon. This scene's very sad. Waka just has his hand on his head like this dude, like I know we've talked a lot of shit on Waka, but like this dude's had a rough life.
Oh, you know what? Actually, that is kind of sad because like also, like, Waka lost his little brother and then found another dude who's kind of like his little brother to be his best friend, and then he's losing that guy too.
Yeah, not only that, but Waka realized that like the core like principles that he believed and the thing that made him was complete bullshit. Yeah. And like not only just like, oh man, I was stupid for believing that, but being like, oh, I was believing in a thing that was actually like actively making the world worse, and yeah. I was a part of that machine, and I fucking am terrible.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, God, but it's very sad.
Then Titus...
Nothing is real, not even my best friend.
Titus then takes a running fucking leap off of the fucking Fahrenheit. He just like gears up and goes zoom and just jumps off the ship.
Does a goddamn swan
the clouds,
dive.
Which I'm guessing this if this vision is like makes sense, because if like the cloud under us maybe is just like just condensed fireflies or something like that.
Maybe
it could be what
I almost compare like, because like inside Sin was almost like an inversion of the far plane for a while.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So it could also just be like the byproduct of Sin exploding, like because he exploded into kind of like this like mist or whatever, this orange.
It's like explosion, but it probably feels really like kind of refreshing instead of like burning.
Oh yeah. This is Sin's good toxins.
Leave us a 5-star review. Tell us how refreshing you think Sin's byproduct is.
So Sin got really into essential oils. It smells really nice. He's got a nice little mister, going like
letting off hella ohms.
But
That's
yeah,
actually
so
not how that works.
Titus.
I'm sorry.
They have like little containers of it at Lush. You just like
Yeah, but Titus is just kind of falling, like free falling, still like becoming translucent and stuff.
which
and
to me is the biggest. Like, I get that like we have no reason to believe that anything will go well because it's a very sad scene, it's a very sad game. But that's still a giant gamble to me because I'd be like, what if we figured out something at the last minute?
Yeah, what if?
And then Titus is just in free fall. And he's like,
yeah.
oh shit.
Yeah, I think it all kind of comes with like Titus knows, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I know,
like
I
we're
know.
as the player, we're like, oh, there could still be a chance or whatever. But like, I feel like with everything
Well, no,
that
I think I'm
Titus
just
has been through.
a sarcastic goofball.
Oh yeah,
But
no, I thought the exact same thing though when I first played it.
I was just like, ooh, I
yeah.
hope they don't figure something out.
But as he's falling, we see what he's falling towards, and it's Braska, Aaron, and then like a little further behind both of them is Jack.
He sees Jacked, yeah.
And we kind of see it from Titus's perspective as he's like going towards them. And like there's this really awesome scene where you just see Jack kind of standing there and he's like smiling. He's got his kind of shitty face.
Yeah,
He looks kind of handsome in this one. He looks a little less like banged up. He looks has a kind of a Pedro Pascal vibe to him.
Yeah,
Sure.
he's like he seems a little younger, I guess. But like you know, like he's not. It's not like a gentle like smile or anything. It's still very jacked and very like rugged. You know what I mean? But he's just kind of looking, and he puts his hand out, and then we see Titus's hand give him a fucking high five.
A fucking high five. The game ends on a high five. Are you kidding me?
It's real good.
So good.
Yeah.
Or I guess like
credits,
not the
right?
whole game, but like no, there's one more scene before the
right,
credits.
you're right.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so this is actually like the last scene in the game.
And this, I
essentially.
think this part might be like the thing that got me the worst. It
Really?
we just it like fades out to black, and then it's fading back in, and we just see a beautiful shot of the ocean and like the sky, and it's a beautiful clear day, and there's
we're at Luca, right?
yeah. there's
You can
seagulls
assume
going on.
because that's the only time we've seen this many like seagulls and like this pier that she's on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just hear a piercing whistle, and then
Right,
we see
yeah.
Yuna's eye, and it kind of just slowly it starts to like pan out to show her, and she's just on the dock in Luca, whistling like nonstop.
Whistling, doing the finger whistle, which I wanted to bring up. Alex, you might have to do a bunch of editing, and I'm really sorry. Did anybody else learn how to finger whistle?
No, I did not.
Because I did. So I like over the last couple weeks, I've been like trying to get it, and I've only gotten it a couple times, and it's really hard. It's fucking hard to do. But I remember like the episode that this came up in Luca, I was like, all right, all of us have to learn how to finger whistle by the end of the series, and I did it. So I'm gonna do my best real quick to
Surprising
get one.
no one, I did not do the homework.
But I might not get it because like I'll sit here and try it for like 10 minutes sometimes and not get one, and then sometimes I'll just like get one real quick. But here's how you do it, okay? This is for the listeners too. If you want to do the fucking Titus whistle,
Try this, kids at home.
all right. So the thing is, the reason why I could never do it, and I think the reason why people can't do it, is because there's actually like a tongue thing happening, right? So like the deal is you want to like kind of roll your tongue back, right? You want to put like the bottom of your tongue on the roof of your mouth, so it's kind of like
doing a
bent
click.
backward. Yeah. And then what your fingers are doing, they're not just sitting in your mouth and like making your mouth wide or anything. You're pushing the bottom of your tongue backwards, and that's actually is what is creating the space where the whistle's happening. But you have to like tuck your lips in too. You can't have them out. So you gotta tuck your lips in, tongue up on the roof of your mouth, and then push the middle of your tongue backward, and that's how you get it.
Up. What if you just even like
we just all started throwing up on fucking like, blah. Yeah, Alex has two fingers in his mouth. He's like, I think I can do that. All right, I'm gonna try to do it, but I might not get it. So Alex, this might take me like 5 minutes to get, and if I even get any, like, whoop, that'll be it. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I can't do it. Fuck, man. I'm gonna have to record myself doing it later, or else we're gonna be here forever. Yeah, fuck it, whatever. I'll do a recording of it later. But I got it a couple times. I can't do it now.
I'm looking at an illustration on how to do this. Push tongue back into mouth.
Well, are you okay? I was gonna say I had to do it with the thing. Remember? Yeah.
It literally makes me feel like I'm gonna throw up. I like how the illustrations that I have here kind of look like it's like a cool gang sign. This is the new Yevon prayer.
I can't do it. I'm sorry.
So here's the thing.
I really did it a couple of times.
After we said that originally, I was like, I really want to try and do this. I want to try and figure it out. And I was sitting there and trying to, and then I was like, I can't fucking do this. And I also, like, everyone in my house works from home, so I don't want to just be like trying to like make a piercing noise. So I gave up after like my first attempt.
God damn it, I almost had it. I had like a little bit of a whistle. Anyway.
Whistle.
Yeah, tweet. There it is.
So anyway.
God damn it, now I'm so embarrassed. Well, I'm glad to leave y'all off on a...
That's all right, I didn't beat Penance or Nemesis, so it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, but going back to what I was saying.
so proud of myself, too.
Sad.
I just want y'all to know. Like, when I finally got it the first time, I was like, those motherfuckers want to suspect a thing. And I'm like, coming whistling. And then, like, this week, I've been like, all right, time to practice it some more. And it was, like, harder now than it was the first time. I was like,
here's the thing, Curtis. I'm also proud of you.
All right.
But yeah, so she's just at the dock trying to contact Titus, even though like I think she probably knows that that's in vain, but it's very heartbreaking. And as she's
also
doing,
might be like just her like way of keeping his memory alive too, you know?
Yeah, for sure. But like
this is lost art form.
Yeah,
yeah.
She's definitely grieving, and then behind her we see Lulu kind of walking up.
Yeah, and she says, "Yuna, it's time."
Yep, and like Yuna is like giving a speech to a full packed blitzball stadium, right?
Yeah, Luca Stadium is just, I guess, where everything happens, including like State of the Union and shit like that.
Yeah. So she's defeated Sin, and so I guess she's like also everybody in Yevon is dead now, like actually dead and sent. Like there's no Seymour, there's no Micah. Like is she just de facto the head of like the church at this point? I think
Shalinda thought like this is a little too much for me. So
yeah, probably so. So like I could see like Yuna being like the most important person in the world right now.
Well, I mean, even she's the hero. Like she is the one who finally has brought about this calm. Like whether it's
called the Eternal Calm. If you're playing on the PS4, that an achievement will pop up in the top right hand corner.
Hell yeah.
So calm forever.
But she's addressing the crowd, and she says, and she's kind of like, it's delivering a big speech. There's a lot of reverb on her voice. It's great. She says, everyone has lost something precious. Everyone here has lost homes, dreams, and friends.
Everybody, now, Sin is finally dead. Now, Spira is ours again.
Thunderous applause going on.
Yeah. Now we can make new homes for ourselves and new dreams. Although I know the journey will be hard, we have lots of time. And I like that line. That's really good.
Yeah, and
like there was never
that,
time to do anything before.
As she says that, we see like everyone in the party. Like we see a shot of Lulu, Waka, and Riku, and they're all like, a new lease on life.
It's very the end of like Star Wars: A New Hope. Like they're all like standing there,
Yeah, Obi-Wan just died, but
She says, together we will rebuild Spira. The road is ahead of us, so let's start out today. And just one more thing. The people and the friends that we have lost, or the dreams that have faded. And as she says that, there's like a bunch of like scenes from the game that kind of like flash in front of us. And then it stops on the scene at the Macalania Spring, right? Yeah. Like the Sateki Dane place. Oh no, and that kind of like stays there for just a moment, and you hear Yuna just say,
"Never forget them."
Yeah, and even before that, like as she's saying that, like the delivery of the line, the people and the friends that we have lost, she's saying that, and she's she's public speaking. She's talking to everyone in the world pretty much, and she's like, the people and the friends we have lost, and then she goes, or the dreams that have faded. Like, she says it like almost to
Yeah.
herself, which is so fucking sad. She's talking about Titus.
I know. Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, and that's how the game ends, is on the words "never forget them," and like we get credits.
Yeah.
That's,
well, and
that's
then,
a Final Fantasy X, y'all.
well, then there's some post-credit scenes, right?
There is a Marvel style post credit scene where Captain America comes and talks to us about safety and whatever. I think that was how the Spider-Man one ended. I don't know.
Spider-Man Far From Home or Homecoming ended that way. Talking about like
right.
it was all about like handling disappointment, like
yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I also really like so like it's like we see Yuna after she says that and it fades to black and we just see a firefly floating by, which is very nice. But I also like that in the video that I'm watching that just has the Final Fantasy X HD remaster ending on YouTube, this person who was recording it, like it's still capturing like when their friends come online and stuff, so it's just like this big emotional moment, and it's like Cabriolet 21 is now online. It's like, hell yeah, I wonder what they're playing tonight.
Only hits XZ0.
Wanderlust _ has logged in.
Also the credits music is really good.
Yeah,
this is the orchestral version of Sadeki Dene, right?
I think it is, yeah.
I can't remember if it's either that or it's the...
There's like, yeah, on the soundtrack I have, it has like the love scene one, and then they have like the full orchestral version, which is like the credits
one.
Yeah. Which is it's probably a little longer.
It's really
too.
good. No, it's so good, y'all.
It's really good.
Suteki Dane. It's so good.
Isn't it wonderful?
Do we want to talk about the lyrics to this, by the way?
Sure.
We can.
Because I don't think we ever brought it up. I mean, it's not probably super... yeah, it's basically just like a love song, right?
Yeah.
But the last line is the last, I think, phrase. No, wait, maybe it's actually the...
I like that the vocalist on this song is named Ricky, like Rikki. And when I saw that, I was like, Riku sung this, what?
But I think it's the post-chorus, because like there's the chorus is, "Isn't it wonderful we could walk together? I'd want to go to your city, your home, and your arms."
Yeah.
But the refrain is like, I think it's that chest, hold my body, fading in the evening. Is it a dream? Which is it's like, oh.
Yeah.
That means something different now.
I know. Oh, boy.
I like the part of the song where it says, "When I was a young boy, my father took me into the city to see a marching band, and he said, 'Son, when you grow up, would you be the savior of the broken, the beaten, and the sent?'"
And the scent, yeah.
But then the producer's like, we can't just have a female vocalist. We need some like rap vocalists over this too. So they just like, wake me up.
They had Korn's DJ doing that in the background. Will you defeat them, your Aeons, and all the non-believers, the plans that they have made?
But yeah, at the very end, so like the final credits come up, we see Square Enix, you know, their logo, and then we see some fireflies float by, and then we see like Titus again floating in like a black expanse, I guess.
This is like a fetal position, right?
It's like half fetal position, half killer cannonball form.
And then it's like the intro to like Ghost in the Shell, right?
I don't remember.
It starts with the lady droid in a fetal position in water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it reveals that he is in the water.
He's sneaking. Maybe this was all a dream.
Dude, it is kind of left open-ended, because like he's like in fetal position in the water, but then he like, you know, stretches. He looks around and he's clearly like conscious.
Like he's sleeping underwater.
Yeah, he like wakes up. He like stretches his arms out, and he starts to swim upward toward the surface. And then he like swims into the camera, and it just says Final Fantasy X across the screen, and it's just like,
good game.
That was an FF10.
And what an FF10 it was.
Yeah, and then we get a the end screen.
Yeah, which is really nice. So. It's a nice little logo.
If this was Nintendo, it would say thank you for playing, but
thank you so much for playing my game.
Where's the and you at the end of the credits?
And viewers like you.
Yeah, but that's it. That's FF10.
That's all there is to this game.
And like, I guess it does kind of leave it like that last scene is a little weird, where it's like, oh, maybe Titus is still alive, and like I was wondering, is that little post credits thing in the original, or was that added later for like the international release or something? I don't think that it implies or anything that there would be a sequel. I think it might just be like, oh, some things are mystical, magical, and you the player, use your imagination to figure out what happens next. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm checking like the non-HD ending from this video is uploaded onto YouTube in 2008. I don't know if this is probably like the international release, I would imagine, but it shows the same thing on the ending.
Okay, yeah. So I don't think it like implies that there was going to be a sequel or anything, but now that there is a sequel, I feel like it has a bit of a different feeling to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So
he's at peace, I think is what it's supposed to be. Like whatever comes after death or whatever, he's not like it's fine. He still exists somewhere, even though he's like as a memory. Who knows? That's
the kind of message that I think is right.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking it as like, like since given the religious themes of this entire game, it was kind of like, okay, well the Faith were just in a set like just never-ending purgatory, basically, as like everything was unfolding around them, and now they're finally at peace, which like they're in their paradise, they're in their heaven or whatever, and Titus has like woken up there and he gets to be with like Braska and Auron and I don't know, maybe Unalesca for some reason, who knows.
This is like the one thing that I think that's like kind of left hanging is like how and why was Jack chosen to like be the first to come to Spira as like on behalf of the Faith. Like why did we like it's like us saying to Hulk Hogan, like why did we just get like this guy who's kind of like an asshole but also kind of a celebrity?
Yeah, right.
To like save the world.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really think of that. Like there was a lot of stuff that I was trying to like figure out with this ending, which I don't really think it necessarily needs that. I think the more like you kind of dissect stuff like this, it's like the the kind of cheaper it gets in some ways.
Yeah,
like you don't need an answer to like necessarily every question. Like all the big ones have been answered. Like that's a very good question about like what was special about Jack that made him get to Spira. But like my thing was like, okay, well, how did Titus get to Spira and all of this? And I did do some research and I found a pretty good...
It's in his contract, in Dreams Anarchy. if you like, okay, you have to, instead of retiring, we're just going to fucking kick you out of the dream.
I can just say what my dad always used to say when I would ask like questions
about
movies or whatever.
Not that kind of game, kid.
My dad would always just say...
Harrison Ford would say to Mark Hamill. I was like, hey, we just came out of the trash compactor. Why is my hair dry?
Yeah, I would always just ask my dad, like, oh, well, why did this happen in like this movie or whatever? And he would just go, because it was in the script.
But I figure it's kind of the same, probably, I mean, I want to say the same tech, but the same kind of like reasoning of like how do Faith become physical aeons that can defeat physical sentient things. It's probably the same thing. Like if they can like basically make an avatar to like defeat foes in Spira, they could probably like, well, maybe we don't need a fucking like, we don't need a pilot. We just like make our own like, is Titus inject were they just summons in a way?
Yeah, so I think like the way that it kind of all shakes out is like Faith and aeons are like, we're like a part of this like dreamed up world, like this like Zanarkand at one point was a real place, and then just through the act of like creating the dream or whatever and creating sin to like go against Bavel or whatever, like that is kind of the connection between the aeons and the Faith, because we were saying like the Faith were like they like kind of chose to be summoned, right?
Well, there was already summoning. We know that because
the Zanarkand had the summoners and Bavel had like the Machina.
Summoners.
So like the idea of summoning and having faith, I think, was just always around. Yeah, to some extent.
And then I think like what had happened, and this is also like I did some research and like read some like theories or like just whatever canon has come out
some
since
leftist
the game.
Theory.
Yeah, just read some marks on this. But,
I read what Marx and Engels had to say about FF10. Their
Marx
take
failed to consider the dream of the Faith. No, but yeah, like I think it's like you Yevon in like a way of preserving Zanarkand during like the war with Bavel was to like create the dream through like an act of like a grand summon, so that like basically everyone in Zanarkand was like, okay, we're going to become like a dream so that we can then like become these Faith like through the power of summoning.
Yeah.
It's all, who knows?
Yeah,
and it's the kind of thing where like the more you kind of boil it down, like I feel like it, like I like to just accept this on its terms and not kind of think like, okay, well, what's the scientific reasoning behind this, or like
how does the Force really work?
Yeah, it turns out it was midichlorians the whole time, but you know what I mean? Like, there's no real, in my opinion, you don't really need to
metachlorinate your pool at least once a week, or else it'll get a gross mold in it.
Midichlorians are the powerhouse of the cell.
But one thing I did see, which was a cool just like breakdown of what happened, was like during the blitzball game that Titus is playing, like when Sin first attacked and brought him to Spira, it was like that was Jecht as Sin after the events unfolded with Auron and Braska, where like Jecht still had some sentience over Sin, so he was like, okay, I know what I can do. I know everything about Xanarkand, like everything kind of makes sense to me. I'm gonna go there and hope my son can be the one to do this. And then he shows up in Xanarkand. Auron is also there because like he was like, hey, go and get my son, I guess, before becoming Sin fully.
Yeah. So
that's why like at the beginning of the game when Auron is looking at Sin, like he has some dialogue with him as if he's like talking to him.
Yeah. I actually think that like it kind of, and again, like we are like analyzing it. We're putting a lot into it at this point, but I think it does make some sense maybe in a way, because I was thinking about it and I was like, well, if you're the faith, right, and you're like, okay, the dream needs to end, like Sin needs to be stopped. It's time for this to be over. The one who makes the most sense to bring over probably is Jecht, right? Like he's the one who like, oh yeah, he's like the greatest sportsman of all time.
It's Space Jam logic, man. They got the best athlete they can.
yeah. Space Jam, like best athlete of all time.
Space Jam.
We know that he's a fucking drunk, violent dude who will attack a show puff or whatever, a shoe puff. So like, dude can fucking hold some. He can go at it. You know what I mean? He's probably a dangerous dude. It does make sense to like, yeah, Jecht is probably the one you want. But then that doesn't work out, and Jecht's like, no, wait, I have a backup. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. We can
what
still
if they actually were using Dreams Anakin to like, we need to create an environment so toxic that we create our own the most unstoppable man.
They just would have if they needed to create if they needed to create something that toxic, they just would have made League of Legends online.
Yeah, so I guess that does make sense. Yeah, and it's like, again, I don't think it's super important to be like, well, why did all of these events happen? And
yeah,
like,
right.
I mean, I'm sure there's tons of posts on Reddit that you can like read up about, but it's like, that's the basic understanding that I have of it, where, and to me, it kind of makes sense. So I'm like, hell yeah, I'm satisfied. I'm very satisfied.
Yeah. But that is FF10, and I think what we should do now is we should take a break, come back, and then what's the opposite of digest? Regurgitate it, I guess.
Yeah, we're going to talk about
it. Remember
we
were talking about the when they have to leave the dome at Luca? Is the
locker rooms,
the vomitorium. We're gonna vomit.
The vomitorium. So let's take a break and come back, and we will decompress so we don't get the Final Fantasy bins.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so what do y'all think about Final Fantasy X?
I never played it. No,
if I got a podcast for you, then.
No, yeah, I've been recommending it to like anyone who's like, "Hey, is that a good one to jump into?" Like, I think if you're like haven't played JRPGs, like it's super accessible, but also super exploitable. As like,
yeah,
because
I will say that it is very accessible. Like, I've been playing like JRPGs since I guess the SNES. So like turn-based battles like in 7, those are my fucking bread and butter. Like I am ready for them. Like give me the ATB gauge. I love it. You know what I mean? But like this one probably is an easier place to jump into. You know what I mean? Than having to worry about like the timing bar and stuff like that we had to in 7. So like it might be like the easiest to just hop into and get cranking on it.
The turn order, being able to like kind of plan like multiple moves ahead and stuff like that, instead of having to like kind of do the math, like, well, this character's moving this often and this often, like how can I get these cycles in? You really just have like, here's the order of all the turns given everyone's speed currently, and it's like really cool. You can kind of manipulate the order. And it's like a chess game almost.
Yeah. So and instead of like managing like loadouts of equipment and stuff, it's very simple, just one weapon, one accessory. and like you just get, you know, a couple skills on them on your weapon and accessory, and like it really pares that aspect of it down to its bare necessity. And the sphere grid is very simple as well. Like it's not like
it's overwhelming when you first see it. I'm like, oh god, but then once you
realize that it's just go forward, then
it's kind of the same as this game this game overall, which is like it shows a lot of the potential laid out in front of you, but it kind of keeps you on like a pretty nice narrow path if you want to like follow it and kind of cruise through this. But it gives you lots of flexibility to kind of jump off and do your own thing.
And it's like super balanced in that way as well.
Yeah, and like games like 7 and 8 and 9, like there's lots of ways that you can build out structures of teams, and you know, like your loadouts can be very, very detailed, where this one is very much just like learn the skill and now you have it.
Yeah, I love that weapons just like don't really matter to like your strength or whatever, because I'm so used to games where like I need to get the better sword, but this is like no, the swords are just the weapons are just modifiers. They're just like I need to be they double as armor almost, kind of, or like they're kind of the opposite of your armor, which they don't like change stats. They just kind of change like affinities.
Yeah,
it's like swapping out like a Pokemon in battle. It's like, cool. Now I have these like buffs and like these things now, but my character's still as strong as he was before.
Yeah, and I think on playing it again now, I think that you're right about that. This probably is like, it might be the best one to start with if you haven't played, especially JRPGs. Like I still like most of the other ones better than this one, but it might be the best one to recommend for somebody's first one for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think, especially like if graphics is something that like is something that someone gets caught up on, you know, like because the graphics in this game are beautiful.
How the game's aged and whatnot. This game aged pretty well, I think.
Like
especially with the remaster.
I have
stuff they've added.
I have no problem with the Final Fantasy VII original graphics, like especially with the remaster where it's like they look goofy and stuff, but like, you know, compare that to like old like old like pixel art style. Like it's the same sort of thing. It's like, you know, it's a part of video game history, so that never bothers me. But I could definitely see newer players.
I can believe that my 8 pixel tall characters are real people. Like I'm ready to like make that jump in disbelief. Like I can believe that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, it's a stylistic kind of thing, and like, but I could see people being turned off by that, which is a bummer because 7 has such an amazing story. But like, in terms of like it being very accessible for newer players, I think that's very true. And it's been really cool watching Ashwin stream this for the first time, because the only experience that she's had with Final Fantasy at all has been Final Fantasy VII Remake. So it's kind of cool seeing like a new person to like Final Fantasy as a whole going through this in real time and like see how, and she's not like looking anything up and like barely asking for any hints, which is super cool. But you'll get into situations where it's like, oh, if you're familiar with Final Fantasy, this is no problem because, oh, like, you know about haste, you know that you can like make your party all hasted and kind of trivialize a lot of it, or you know like the Final Fantasy staples that kind of make, oh, okay, well this is how I handle battles easier. And like, if you don't have that connection and you're just like, well, I don't really know what that means, and you just kind of go through it and play, it's like very interesting. And there's some parts that like I found no difficulty with, and not because like I'm a good gamer or anything like that, but just because I'm like,
you are a god gamer.
But just because I'm like the Evray fight she recently got to, and like it shows how difficult of a fight that is, where like for me I was like, oh, he's using haste, I can just use slow or I can use dispel or whatever. And
I had to come back and fight a lot. I
was like, my whole party's already hasted because the very second Titus got haste, I was just Titus was just
all the time.
That was just, oh, okay, now Titus gets into battle, he casts haste on himself and then immediately casts haste on everyone else, and then so like I didn't even have any kind of issue with that. But like I can totally see how someone who has no idea how that mechanic works being like, and like that was her introduction to haste basically, where it's like, okay, I'm doing pretty well, I'm struggling through this fight, now this thing is hasting itself and I don't know.
You know, I know that like there's many more aspects to talk about 10 about other than it just being a starter game in a way, but along those lines too, like I think that this game, maybe more than the rest, maybe 12 does, but 10 more than I think any of the previous ones, really puts a accent on statuses, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not like that. You don't shrug them off in the same way that you can shrug them off in like 7. Like I could get like every status in 7 and be like, well, as long as I'm not confused, like it's all so much dressing. Who cares? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like
I can
poison or
keep putting
toad
attack.
is like the only thing in 7 that's, or not poison. Confuse and toad is like the only thing that matters. Like you get poison, and you're like, I'll deal with that. Like I can just fight through this battle. It's fine. But like you get poison,
and even toad, like there are some. I think he has like magic or something. I don't know. Anyway, but
yeah, I think you're right.
Maybe not. I don't know. The point is though, it's not hard to deal with. Whereas like 10, it's like every status is like, this must be dealt with, and now like this needs to be.
I also think that 10 tutorializes better than most of the games, where it's kind of like it's very like drip feedy the whole time, where it's like, oh, okay, you come in, here's how you switch out party members, and like it's easy to kind of miss stuff early on like that if you're not like really looking for it, but like it'll put you in situations where it's like, here's what you need to do to like you have all the pieces that you need to get through this. It's going to be tough, but if you do it the right way, you do it. And like this kind of leads into like conversations that we've been having in the Discord recently of like quote unquote cheese strats. It's like, oh, okay, well, this is the cheese strat that you use to take down this boss. And it's like, okay, but is casting reflect on a boss that is continually casting like cure on itself or whatever?
Yeah, it's not
is
cheese.
That actually
That's what
a
it's
cheese
there for.
strat, or is that just like, oh no, you understand the thing? Like the bosses always know the mechanics of the game, and they're actively working those mechanics to go against you. So when you know their mechanics and can work against them, like
back on the tutorialization, it's nice seeing that's on stream, because like again, Ashwin is like very thorough. Like she actually goes back to like the Wii U gamepad to see like if there's like new stuff, and I never actually like went in there, but like, oh yeah, here's how to take down a behemoth, and like it walks you through like an actual fight of like, and actually like it kind of gets these little like kind of techniques in your brain, which is really handy. It's like, oh, this is really useful. Like I keep forgetting that all this stuff is right here, like a whole glossary of just like game mechanics.
It's really good
cool,
about that.
cool plays, cool moves.
Yeah, and that sets you up for future Final Fantasies, because it's like, especially when you get later on in the game where you're like dealing with zombie strike and shit, and like, oh my god, potions are hurting me now, and it's like, oh, okay, wait, can I do that to an enemy? Like that's just a staple of Final Fantasy, that like there's certain points in other Final Fantasy games where you're like, oh, okay, I've seen this before, I know how to handle this boss is no problem. Versus like a first time through where it's like very good at like punishing you, maybe sometimes like unfairly punishing you with like the unskippable cutscenes, but like another part of that is thinking of the time. Like this was like the height of technology. This is like the only thing that was like this that was seen was maybe the Spirits Within, right? So like, why would the developers be like, oh, people will want to like not have to watch this? You know, I don't even think it was a thing where they're like, no, people have to watch this because we worked on it. I think it was more so a thing where it's like, they didn't really necessarily expect people to like have to go through it so many times because it was such a new thing.
Along those lines, that's another thing I wanted to talk about as well, is like the plot of this game, right? So like this is our, I mean, FF1 clearly has a plot, but like this is our second Final Fantasy with like a really drawn out story, right? And like, I think it is the most intimate of all the Final Fantasy game storylines. Maybe 15 could probably take it, or at least you know, be on that same level. But it does have like, in a weird way, a smaller scope than a lot of the games, because like
smaller emotional scope at least.
Yeah, right. Oh, and even like distance. Like I guess we went around the quote unquote world, but like as far as we know, like Spirit might just be a continent, right?
Yeah,
right.
Like
it's a very small planet.
Yeah. So like,
for somehow Sim just ripped like gorges into that we haven't
right.
Fallout. It just missed everyone.
Yeah, but like it has a smaller scale in multiple ways. I think right. FF10 has, which I think is good for it. I think like that's a really interesting way to do it. To do a Final Fantasy. I will say one of the things, because like again, like I'm going to give it so many compliments, but I'm also going to tell the things I don't like so much about it. Yeah, of course.
That's what we're here for.
One of the things, and mostly it's comparative, right? It's not that it itself is bad. It's like the worst song on a fantastic record. You know, you can only compare it to the songs around it.
Yeah, it's like the worst song on Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge.
I was gonna say it's like Teenagers on Black Parade.
Yeah. Like
it's better than every other song ever. What? It's better than all other songs that any other band has ever written, but it's the worst one on Black Parade.
Yeah.
Someone's got to be the worst, you know.
But I think it's slow. I think it's the slowest Final Fantasy. Like before, we're halfway through the game before we're even allowed to customize weapons. Like, and like the cutscenes are long, and like there's a lot of like piddling around before I get to do things. Like if I just want to open up and play some Final Fantasy, like you don't get to really play 10 until you're at like Mi'ihen High Road. Like that's the first time we get to run around and fight some things and have a little bit of an adventure.
I guess you could like fuck around on B-Stage for a while, like after you've gotten Yuna, right?
I guess so, yeah. You get the little tutorial fights and stuff. But like, yeah, it's like there's not enough to like dig into at that point until you get like most of your party and you can do some switching out and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of the interesting pacing of the story, which I kind of like. That kind of slowly uncovers things and focuses a lot on like character development and like personalities and stuff without even like we meet Titus, and then we meet Auron, then we meet Waka, like all independently, like and then we meet Lulu, and then we meet Yuna or something like that, like, or the other way around.
And then we meet Auron.
Like, again, like it's just kind of like there's a lot of space in between, but we kind of get to know everybody. And then they start kind of clashing into each other and start finding out everyone's like, I don't know, weird quirks and like backstories and like flaws and like strengths, which is always really cool.
This game does have the best like inter-party story, I think. You know, like it draws that stuff out a lot better because like the one I keep saying is the best, FF8, right? Tell me how like any two characters feel about each other. How does Zell feel about Selphie? They don't really talk to each other.
How does Irvine feel about Quistis? Yeah, it's like...
Yeah, they don't talk to each other. Who knows? Like, FF9, how does Amarant feel about Quina? I don't think they share one word to each other the entire game.
Yeah, this definitely...
But like I know exactly how everybody feels about everybody in 10.
Yeah, the characters are really what make Final Fantasy X so good. Like the combat, the gameplay, very good. But like you were saying, it's all like the characters. Like I think the reason this game is so beloved, aside from the fact that the combat fucking is super fun and it's very fun to just play on those terms, is the characters. Like I feel like weirdly in the same way that we were talking about how it's kind of a slow start or whatever, I think it's more like a drip feed, so it takes longer for things to really pick up, and when they do, you're like, oh fuck, now it's like an unstoppable train until the end, unless you're doing like side quest stuff, which
right. That's almost like another game.
Yeah, but like in that same respect, I feel like in terms of what we were saying, where you could like fuck around on Besaid or whatever and like fight monsters and stuff, like I feel like there's
like
not really rewarding. Yeah, it's not like rewarding early game with grinding. Not that like any Final Fantasy necessarily is, but I feel like this one's like less rewarding with that, especially when you get like later on into the game and you're like, oh, okay, well I can just like easily get to where I want to be on the sphere grid with like minimal like effort, kind of. I mean, also not really minimal effort because it takes a lot of prep to get to that point.
I also think like I think it's just the nature of the beast in some ways to have the battle system that FF10 does have. It has to kind of trade something away because like the battle system is fucking fantastic. I love how like puzzly it is and how it's kind of like a thinking man's battle. But to do that, you kind of have to get rid of like the visceral aspect of like 6, 7, 8, 9, and I guess 5, where they have like the speed. You know what I mean? Like you need to input your thing now, like because enemies will get turns if you're not doing it.
Yeah,
like. So, like, you trade that speed away.
Yeah, true.
Unless you set it to wait. But even then, if you don't go into the menu, it's not waiting. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you still have to at least, like, start menu diving before the ATBs will stop. Unless it's 8, in which, like, case, some menus cause it to stop and some of them don't. And you'll just have to figure out which one's which.
Yep.
And it makes no sense, because that game rules. But yeah, so, like, that's the thing about it, is that, like, I personally don't have the most fun time always playing 10, but whenever I do play 10, I'm always just reminded that, like, yo, the strengths of this game are the weird puzzle battles and the writing. The writing is just so good.
Yeah, I'm big sucker for just well-written stories, and like that it can kind of, I don't have to play too long or too hard to kind of get more story. Yeah, which is nice, but I can also just take my time playing forever if I want to just keep going. I really like this game. It does a lot of things that a lot of games or RPGs I've played don't do a whole lot. Maybe I could be wrong. You're a character who isn't a warrior. You're not a fighter, and like the world you're from isn't even that kind of world. Even it doesn't seem like.
Yeah.
But then, like, the characters you meet, there's not just history in the world, which most RPGs have. Like, there's already history in like your party members interacting with each other before you even meet them one by one. Like, I feel like there's a lot of RPGs where you just like, you meet a new character, you figure out their deals, and then they just join the party. Yeah, you all have a common goal. But like, you get here, like, you're just kind of like walking in on this kind of this family, like riding the coattails of this family.
Instead of like,
what is this new guy here? Like, we're kind of doing our own thing, and like we've been working on this thing for decades.
It's interesting to say that because, like, you're right. RPGs are always like characters joining you because you have a common goal. But really, in this game, because I guess like the main character, we are supposed to be Titus. Nobody is joining us.
We don't have a common goal either. Like, I want to get home. You guys can do your own thing. I just want
everyone
to
is
I'm just
joining.
Tagging along.
Everybody's joining Yuna, Lulu, and Waka. That's their quest. Like, everybody's joining their party.
I think that's one of
Yuna
the biggest
is the hero
strengths.
in her world.
Yeah.
This is the hero in his world, but he's like, it takes a while for him to kind of wrap his head around that for a while.
I think that's the biggest strength, and I think that's such a good like just creative decision that the writers made of this game, because like every other game you play as like the silent protagonist, kind of, in some ways. Like, you're not the one talking most of the time. The story's kind of unfolding around you and like because of you. And like with this, that's what Final Fantasy games are. You know, you're like, oh, I'm Cloud, and this is Cloud's story, and this is how it all works. And like, oh, I need to save these people or whatever. But with this it's like
your story.
Yeah, and the whole
dies,
game,
they're still just gonna go do the same thing they were planning on doing. Nothing
changes.
Yeah,
the whole game is like Titus being like, this is my story. This, and in a lot of ways it is, but like there's a certain
and
point
in a lot of
game,
ways it's not.
But like, yeah, there's a certain point in the game where you're like, yeah, Titus kind of doesn't really matter all that much.
Right.
He
like,
does.
The calm will still happen. Like, Unit will die, but like
he's
funny, like,
integral.
If he didn't show up, like, the calm would have happened. And,
yeah,
like,
he's integral to like bringing out the eternal calm and like saving Yuna and all of that. But I think that's another really brilliant thing that they did, because it's like at this point in development, like, of the Final Fantasy series, Final Fantasy VII was already legendary. Like the big the twist that happens in that with Aerith, like everyone kind of already knows. So then like when you get to that point in Final Fantasy X where you're like, wait, what is the final summoning? And Titus like freaks out because he's like, everyone knew and we were just like taking her to slaughter and like no one like told me and stuff. And you're like, oh, okay, Final Fantasy's being Final Fantasy again. They're killing like a beloved female character or whatever.
They're fringing again.
Yeah, like and you're like getting ready. You're like bracing yourself for that.
But it's also
and it's
funny,
just
like,
completely
everyone
flipped.
knew, and I didn't know that this character was going to die. I feel like a total idiot.
Yeah. But like, and which is funny too, because it's like that's a really like Titus is a really good link between the character, like the game and the player. You know what I mean? Because you're on the outside of that for most of it. Like, all of these characters already, like we were saying, have their own motivations, have their own lives. It's all going to happen with whether or not we're a part of it.
In relationships with each other, which I think is really what makes this work really well, is everyone has like opinion on each other. Everyone has grown up together or has been on the other side. Like, yeah, the whole thing with like Waka and the Al Bhed and growing up with Lulu and Chapu and like, and then like, okay, we're gonna help Yuna on this thing because I want to make Spira a better place for a little longer. It's really cool.
I just think it's so good.
To break the cycle. It's cool.
Yeah, and I just think it's so good that it's like you're expecting this to be a Final Fantasy game where you are the main character, and all along you're not.
I'll tell you what, if you like that, you're gonna love 12.
Hell yeah.
When we get there.
Hell yeah.
We're gonna play a game where like at the end of it we're gonna be like, so we could have just not been there the whole time.
I love shit like that. It's like It's kind of like when you realize like the truth behind. I mean, like fuck J.K. Rowling, obviously, but in terms of like storytelling of Harry Potter,
Sure.
I really liked how in that series you always hear about how everyone loves Harry Potter. He was the chosen one. He was, you know, and you think about it in terms of like fate and destiny and stuff, and then it's like, oh no, he was the chosen one just because like events unfolded around him, and if it wasn't him, it would have been Neville. Like it could have easily been anyone else. It just happened to be him. So like that's not what makes a hero, like being a chosen by the fates or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
but
right.
I can't.
Star Wars thing too, you know, where like it's funny, like, oh yeah, the butterfly effect, you know, like if this whole movie wouldn't happen if it weren't for the fucking like droids making it to this stupid desert planet.
If it weren't for Jar Jar Binks giving emergency power to the Chancellor.
I love the Republic. I love democracy.
And I also just want to make sure that it's stated abundantly clear. Fuck J.K. Rowling.
Got her. It's about time a podcast
always
put her
be
in her
Rowling.
place. Over there. Yeah, man. Final Fantasy X. What a game.
Yeah, it's a really good game.
I already started playing a little bit of X2 because like I'm hooked on this world. It's really fun. I might still just grind and like actually try to do all the extra bosses now that
I was thinking that
like,
too.
time constraints now. I feel like we should have taken a hiatus and then come back to actually like, when everyone actually has done all the final.
Dude, I knew how long it was gonna take. That's why I started like weeks in advance.
Dude, I fucking started weeks in advance because I knew that you weren't kidding around with that, and even still, I was like, oh my god, like
because most of my time working on this podcast, not playing the games.
Yeah.
That brings up a good point.
Like, I'm always like
we can talk about playtime because I don't think we did that yet, right?
Oh yeah, what was everybody's play? Because this game doesn't have levels, so we can't say what level we're at or anything, right? But we can say playtime.
I was decently through the sphere grid with Arin. Yeah, I was recently through the sphere grid with Arin, Titus, and Yuna. By the time of my end, like game fighting Sin and all that, my playtime was 85 hours, 16 minutes. It was pretty good, like around what I would expect for a Final Fantasy game, the way that I play them and how much dicking around I do in it. But that does not include the save file that I had for all of the penance prep and stuff, which was 153 hours and 5 minutes.
Oh my god.
And like if I look on like my Switch to see the full playtime, because that doesn't count if you got a game over and you have to go back, and you know that's just in-game time.
Yeah.
It's over 150 hours for what I spent on Final Fantasy X.
I was gonna say, like, when you first gave me that original time, I was like, yeah, that sounds about right, because what I'll give you is my penance completion time, right?
Yeah.
Because then after that, I just loaded up the save where I'm right in front of Braska's final Aeon, and I just go fight him. So, like, I don't really even need to count that. So my penance completion time, that is having been all the way through Sin, doing everything, coming back, beating all the super bosses, beating penance, was 83 hours. So, like, when you first said, like, 80-something, I was like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Nope.
Yeah, my file is 87 hours.
87 hours. So yeah,
I'm
it sounds
sure,
like
a few of those is just AFK while I'm working, letting just bonk dingoes forever.
I mean, this game's got fucking content to it. You know what I mean? I will say this. Actually, let me throw one more piece of shade at fucking FF10. And again, we've only done 3 Final Fantasies, so it might not be fair at this point because we just don't have the
whole picture.
You know the breadth to pull from. Worst mini games thus far.
Easily, no fucking question.
I'm
terrible.
I feel
not
like
only
this is
that,
this is kind of a thing with like I think about it a lot with like current game development. Like, oh yeah, this game took like maybe 2 years to make or whatever. Like now games take like 5 years because of just how much like detail and labor goes into it. But at the same time, like I think about old games. Like, okay, it was easy to make mini games back then because it was just as hard to make those as the rest of the game. Like, that's about as much polish. Like a mini game in FF1 or 2, like would probably be like, hell yeah, a mini game in like this game. I got a game inside my game. This rules. It's like when Animal Crossing came with like a ton of like NES games.
The best.
And now then they realize they want to sell you those, so then they're not on the new ones.
Yep.
Well, even like some things in 10 are not mini games that almost call them mini games sometimes. Like a lot of it's side quests too. I think are just like needlessly tedious.
Yeah, like getting the fucking god
10
hand
of everything from every area. How
just,
about
not
a lot of
only
stuff is kind of
that-
an afterthought. Like I kind of wish they like thought about like
yeah,
Listen,
it does,
like thinking about that stuff from the get go, so they can kind of like make it like more user friendly. Like a lot of like even the Chocobo race is like, hey, like what if we did this to unlock this thing? I'm like, fuck you. That's just that's. Just
I want to touch on the capture mechanic because I love that mechanic. I think that's a really great incentive to go back and revisit areas. However, I think it's fucking bullshit that they introduce it at the like basically for all intents and purposes like the last area that you're gonna get to. It's like after that's like Gagazet, you know, kind of
Gagazet Xanarkand, and that's it.
But yeah, it's like why not just have that guy in Kilika, right? Like on your way out, and he's at the fucking travel agency or somewhere that you talk to him and he says, oh hey,
I started
like,
X2 and they show you that like that's the second tutorial I get.
Yeah, like it should
here's how
be
to
like
capture monsters. Like hell yeah.
Well, that was added for the remake.
Oh, was it?
Okay. That's not in the original PS2 one.
That should be like it should be in Kilika. That guy's like, oh hey, I run a monster ranch, in a faraway land, but I lost all these monsters. Here, I'm gonna
my favorite dressing.
I'm gonna sell you these items so that you can help me round them up. So that way, as you're going along, you just kind of can do it if you want, but you don't really have to. So that way, when you get to the point where you actually that's a meaningful thing, you don't have to go, oh, okay, let me go to the airship, let me go to Besaid, let me fight all of these enemies again. It's like that's bullshit.
I would have at least liked them to have a way of keeping track of how many you've captured.
Yeah,
I mean, until it tells you like you've reached your limit, which is like, oh cool, I've got 10 of each now.
Yeah,
but like
again, could just be like the time that the game was developed and we're spoiled.
I was kind of gonna say that,
babies.
like, I was gonna say that because like we are like looking at it retroactively, right? So like we're able to kind of be like, oh, you know, it should have had this or it should have had this, which it probably should have. I think that we're right, but like,
there's a lot of quality of life things that could be added to it, even in like
at the same time,
remaster.
I don't make video games and it looks real hard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like no shade to like the developers or anything, but just like in terms of me being a picky asshole because I have a podcast and I can do that. It's like you know, like and who knows? Like if it was developed today, maybe they would have included that. Maybe it would have been a thing where it's like instead of having to go to the airship, like I get the inclusion of an airship because it's a Final Fantasy staple, but like it doesn't really function the way an airship does, where it's like just this we can fucking warp to the sphere pool and play blitzball from almost any save sphere.
Right.
Why not just have a warp feature there so that it's like you don't have to go through 3 fucking screens just to get to that Mushroom Rock Road so you can find the one monster that
add the location selection to the menu.
Yeah, it's like it's functionally the same thing, you know.
Or how about making the fucking winnable Chocobo race time not 0.0?
Yeah, how about not making it 200 lightning
assholes.
dodges? With lightning dodges? Or why not just do... It doesn't have to be consecutive. It could be either 200 consecutive or 1,000 dodged total, because it's going to be around the same.
Yeah,
and you won't feel like...
kind of just like they reward you for the time you put into it, not the like... the streaks, which is like why I like the Riku ones and like the Auron ones. Like, cool, I just need to do enough stuff and I'll get it. I don't have to like lose progress and get fucking mad at the game.
Yeah. Or you could do like, obviously there are ultra rare items, like there's like the dark matters that you can use to like fuse a ribbon, right? Have a 200 lightning dodge prize, have it be the dark matters,
have it be a thing where you can get dark matters that way instead of having to like bribe or or farm really difficult monster arena things to maybe get a drop of it or like steal of it, and just like, I mean, again, being very picky about a game that came out fucking 20 years ago, but I feel like the only way that you can kind of look at this shit that's included in the game and is not like, it's not really the end of the game. Like you said, Alex, it's the beginning of the third act. It's good to look at that shit as new game plus. It's good to look at, hey, we have this here. Yeah. Go and finish the story because you're pretty close to that. You can go through and do that. And then if you want to keep playing this game, because when this came out, it's like, especially because it's the 10th in the series, like, of course, that's all anyone's going to want to do for like months is play this game. So when you get through the story, then you're like, oh, I wish there was more to do. Oh, there is more to do. So if you look at it that way, fantastic, because you will dump almost just double the amount of playtime into just doing the side stuff, which is very cool. But again, a lot of it is very tedious and not really worth it.
Yeah.
And
Which
like
I will
feels
say,
like the development was like, oh yeah, like it's like they interviewed kids on the playground. I think I said this before, but like it feels like a lot of the celestial weapon shit or just some of the shit in this game is just like, oh yeah, you can find Mew under the truck.
Yeah, yeah, it's very
near
weird.
the SS hand, but it's like actually the case, and you're like, what the fuck? How do they think of this shit?
At least the internet was around during this. Like,
True,
Yeah.
true,
I was
true,
like
true.
doing research and stuff, and it was like, oh yeah, there's like a lot of like, what was it? 1998, I think it was like when Episode 1 Star Wars trailer dropped, and it was like a postage stamp size like QuickTime video. So there was definitely like discussion forums for this game. I know. Also,
Yeah.
like I think it came out like almost like a year before like it came out in the US. So like its localization is a lot different back then too. So there's probably like lots of murmurs
Right.
and discussion
Oh, yeah.
of.
Yeah.
So there's probably stuff out there like, hey, here's how you beat this thing before the game even came out, because there's a bunch of
Maybe
weebs
so.
localizing it themselves.
Right.
Hell yeah.
But
Wow, it's a cool game.
it's a cool game.
The
It's a
story's
good
amazing.
game.
I love. I do. I won't say
This
I
is
love
still
Titus.
Sakaguchi, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Let me look that up. I'm gonna make sure. We keep saying the fucking Nomura all the time, and I think it's Sakaguchi, but I'm gonna see exactly who.
But yeah, just reflecting back on how I felt about Titus at the beginning of the game versus how I feel about him now is pretty cool, because it's like I still don't think he's the strongest like Final Fantasy character. He's a doofus, but like him being a doofus is kind of the point. You know what I mean? And it's like I think his story is really cool, and like his character development is also really cool. But again, at the end of the game, for me, like when the big twist happened, it's like, oh my god, Titus is a dream of the faith and he's disappearing. I wasn't sad because Titus was disappearing. I was sad because Yuna was sad. You know?
Yeah,
what I mean?
right.
Maybe
They
that's
do
just
a really good job of making you care about them.
maybe that's just me, but it's like, yeah, like it's not like other games where characters like, you know, die or whatever, and you're upset because that character is gone. Like, at least for me, it was more so like, oh, I'm sad that my friends are sad about this sad thing that
this
happened.
was a Yoshinori Kitase game, by the way.
Oh wow.
Speaking of, I wonder how fucking confusing it would be for the people who just finished Final Fantasy X and saw the post-credits scene of Titus, and then the next year Kingdom Hearts comes out, and like, Titus is a child.
That's where he went. He went to Kingdom Hearts. That's what the end of the game is. Man, what a game. Also, I think on Steam, I think if you're playing the HD remake or actually remaster of 10, I think one of the achievements is to max out every single character's sphere grid.
Yep.
Which, good lord, man. It took me a long time to do 3.
That's the kind of thing where, like, if I got fired from my job or something and I needed to try and maybe make, like, Twitch a thing that could, like, bring money in, I would be like, okay,
Platinum
here's what I'm doing. For my 9 to 5 for the foreseeable future is going to be doing this, like getting every achievement on this, like. Yeah. So if you want to see me do that, just get me fired from my job, and
I think I can
we'll make it happen. So
man,
Sakaguchi was an executive producer on 10. It looks like.
Okay, I know that. I was reading a interview with Sakaguchi where he was like, "Yeah, I like to be called producer. It's fun." We're like they used to be like co-directors on games, and eventually they like broke it apart to where one was director and one was producer, even though they were both essentially doing the same thing.
Yeah.
This could be us, but you playing. That's like that's the power couple right there. That's my fucking my ideal relationship. It's fucking Kitase and Sakaguchi.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man, that's really all I have to say about FF10, I think.
Yeah. I think I'm in the same boat.
It good.
Good game.
It good, you should play it.
Hell yeah.
And any other opinions will be on the Discord, I'm sure, or Twitter.
Yeah, or just tweet at us or something if we didn't cover.
Hey, Twitter,
something.
FF10 sucks. What do you think about that?
You know, it's a really bummer they didn't make a sequel.
You know what? Okay, there's 2 games. I'll say this in relation to 10. 2 things that I'm very excited about. Or maybe 3, I think, maybe. Let's put it this way. Okay. I'm excited about how we think about 10 when it comes to the relationship between it and 10-2, because obviously there's sequels, so it's going to be interesting to look at that. it'll be interesting to look at 12 because that's the one that's next, right? And 11 is next technically, but that's the online game. So like, yeah. So 12's next. It'll be really interesting to look at how like I think those games are wildly different. Like they are like on two extremes. And then for me, I think the most 10-like of the rest of the games is 13 because it also is start at one part of the world and then walk to the other side. Like they're both the same kind of storytelling, but do it very differently. So that'll be a really interesting one to talk about.
Interesting.
Speaking of which,
that's all the time we have for today. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening.
I think are we doing about a month or two hiatus? What are we thinking?
Yeah, so I do want to talk about the hiatus really quick. We're going to talk about so the next game we're doing is going to be Final Fantasy 16. We are going to be on a hiatus until that game drops. We're very excited for it. We're going to be building up the hype. No, I'm just kidding.
But I don't know, what should people expect? I imagine a couple weeks before we actually come out with our first episode of the next season, we'll like announce it on Twitter, so it won't be out of nowhere.
It'll be a month, maybe 2 months. We'll see how we feel.
It's a long fucking season.
It's a long game we're about to play.
But
I mean the one we just did.
This was a long season. I am thinking about like reformatting how we release the podcast in terms of like episode length and stuff like that, because it's a lot. It's a labor of love. It's a lot of work to put out these episodes, especially the quality that I've cornered myself into doing. But now I edit audio for a fucking job because I did that, so it's came to bite me in the ass. We'll elaborate more on I think when that first episode drops.
It sounds like we may end up doing something in the interim, maybe.
Yeah, perhaps.
We'll have more information.
We have a lot of ideas up in the because like Advent Children is gonna come out like this summer, so like maybe we'll do something about that. We don't know.
Yeah, the remaster, right?
The 4K remaster with complete and incomplete.
We're gonna be dissecting every single one of those Ks.
Speaking of 4K. But without the K.
You son of a bitch. What would you say that for, Alex?
I don't know, Curtis.
I think...
Curtis, at the beginning of this season, when we kind of landed on what game we were doing next, I think you had like a joke that you wanted to tell.
I did have a joke I wanted to tell, and it went a little something like this. So we've done 3 seasons of Final Fantasy, and we've learned a lot about the series at this point. We've like learned who is behind Final Fantasy. Alex hadn't played any, so he's Nomura. Alex hadn't played any, so he's learned what a Final Fantasy is, right? We like it, it started in the fucking 90s, so we've learned when the Final Fantasy is. But the thing that we don't know is what a Final Fantasy is for. Alex, what's a Final Fantasy for?
It's Final Fantasy 2 in the US.
Surprise! We're not doing 8 again. We're not doing 8. Another good way to bait everyone would be like, we're doing Final Fantasy 8 divided by 2. Final Fantasy 2.
Yeah.
Therefore,
which is still kind of Final Fantasy 2.
Yeah. We should probably explain which Final Fantasy 4 we're doing, right?
Oh no, there's only one Final Fantasy 4, but there's multiple Final Fantasy 2s.
Yeah.
We're gonna do the one with Cecil. If you see a Dark Knight, that's the one. Take the turn there.
We're gonna hang out with Sideshow Cecil.
Yeah. Oh God, are we gonna do this? Cecil or Cecil? What is it?
I think it's Cecil, right?
Cecil with a TH.
I think it's Cecil. I was just saying Cecil because obvious Simpsons.
I think in the DS version they say Cecil, or maybe they say
I always heard it Cecil because I knew somebody or Cecil. I'm sorry, because I knew somebody who was named that, and that's how he said it, and so I was like, oh, I think it's Cecil. But anyway,
Yeah, just look at Final Fantasy IV, and you'll see that it's also known as Final Fantasy II in the U.S. because that's the second one that came out in the U.S.
That's how games were back then, which was the style at the time.
You see, Mario 2 is actually Doki Doki Panic.
The 80s and 90s was a weird time for localization.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy IV is actually Final Fantasy Doki Doki.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then, yeah, Final Fantasy II is actually called Final Fantasy The Lost Levels.
Yeah, Nomura was like, okay, I want to make this like for super players. It's going to be really hard and people are going to love it, and it's coming out in the Famicom Disk System. And then he was like, oh, this is way too hard for those dipshits in America. So Koji Kondo's working on that other game, Doki Doki Panic. Yeah, throw that. They won't know the difference.
I'm really excited to do 4 because it was the first video game. It was the first Final Fantasy I played, and it was the video game that I played that I immediately was like, Mom, Dad, you have to get me a video game system. Like, I need to play the rest of this game.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I'm like very, very excited to talk about it. And we'll have our first episode of next season. The way I'm planning it is that we'll have an episode talking about all the versions, because there are so many versions of 4. But if you are trying to get ready for the next, if you're going to play along with us in the next season, and you're like, well, what one should I get? Which one are they going to talk about? Tentatively, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to try to play both an old version and a new version. So I think I'm going to do like original 2 and like the DS version or the Steam version as well.
I think I'm going to do something similar. I haven't landed exactly on what I'm going to do, but I'm going to discuss it with the guys, obviously, and make sure it makes sense. But I think I'm going to treat this season a little differently than I did with 10, where I didn't really play much of 10 before going through it. I think this time, during the break, I'm probably going to play through one of the versions, maybe one of the older ones, and then as we go through the season, I'm going to play through one of the newer versions. Idea. So that way, it's still pretty fresh in my mind. It's still a new experience, and I can kind of talk about the differences, and I'll already kind of know going into it what we're talking about.
Maybe I could do that, but do the opposite. Play like the Steam version, and I'll play the original one. I will say this: the original one,
basically 3-ish versions, right? Like I'm talking about, like in terms of like, because the Steam version is like a port of the DS remake.
Right.
There's the SNES version, which more or less, I think from what I've seen, looks very similar to like the Game Boy Advance version.
Yeah.
And then there's like the PlayStation/PSP version, which
has like the updated graphics.
They're like, it looks more 16-bit, or I guess it is 16-bit, but it's a much more prettier, higher res like sprites and stuff.
The SNES version that we got is a shadow of what the actual game is, though. I will say that. Like, they were like, what if we just get rid of like half of the items and just reduce all the boss HPs by like half, and like,
what if we put Birdo in this game?
That game, like, I did like a casual playthrough of like the 2 ROM, the SNES one, and I think the whole game casually took me like 16 hours. Like comparatively to what we just did was 80. You know what I mean? Like it's fast. It's a breeze. So anyway, the point is, choose whichever one you like the best, and we'll probably touch on it, or at least something similar to it. The story is pretty much the same in all of them. There's going to be some difference in dialogue
and items, and I think in the 3D version, which I found there's a character named Namingway who can like rename Cecil.
He's in all of them. He's in all of them.
Oh, he is? Oh, cool.
Yeah. Now yeah. So yeah, that'll be the next one that we do. I'm incredibly excited for it. And I also like to just like thank everybody who listens to us and like tweets at us and everything, because like y'all make it really fun to do this. And like I was getting like butterflies the last half of this episode, being like, oh my god, we're gonna announce the next one, because like it becomes such a big deal. It's a really fun thing to do with you guys. Yeah,
it's also been really fun just kind of seeing people like guess which of the games. I don't think at the time of recording this, I don't think anyone has guessed that we're doing 4.
Well, your challenge to everybody hasn't come out yet. That comes out tomorrow.
That is also true, but I think shout outs to Tyler in the Discord. I know that like I think every season so far he's been like, you guys are definitely doing 8 next, and like I was in like a Twitch chat or something, and I just like mentioned something in passing about 8 because obviously, and he just like added me and was like, so like 8 confirmed for next season, right? And I just think I purposely didn't answer something like
one day. But But yeah, we'll be it'll be all paladins and dark knights for a little while.
Yep.
Fun.
Let's fucking go.
I'm excited about it.
I'm very excited about it.
Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure to do this season with y'all. I don't know what I'm going to do in the interim.
Yeah, right? Play a lot more Final Fantasy.
I'm going to record some music.
That's my plan too.
I might try and do that as well.
My band's going to hit the studio since we're all vaccinated.
Yes.
Good.
Must be nice.
Is there anywhere we can go to like hear your band's other stuff?
Oh, so yeah, this is great because Robert, who's kind of the brainchild, has been kind of during quarantine. He's a little guilty about promoting the album because he's like, people need money more than I do. But yeah, go to thehumanfly.bandcamp.com if you'd like to hear a band. And there's a beautiful album Robert did in quarantine called A Bottle of the Milk in the Eye, which is I had no hand in this album particularly because we've all been in quarantine. But we were about to hit the studio to record a new album as a full band, and I'm really excited to do that. Here, I think we might even work with past guest Mark, because we're going to be on the Headroom.
Yo,
nice.
Hell yes. Headroom's awesome.
Headroom's great.
And Mark is awesome.
But speaking of, I'd like to give a shout out to all our past guests as well who decided to come on. And Mark was our first guest of the season.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
Mocap on a boat, which was a good time.
That's right.
That's when we were still recording socially distanced in a warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Which that warehouse is no longer an option anymore. It is out of the picture.
Oh, damn.
They don't pay for it anymore, yeah.
The last time I walked out of there, I didn't realize it would be the last time. And
yeah.
Let's say goodbye.
I guarantee that dead rat under the stairs is still 100% there.
The dream of the space is over.
Thank you to Mr. Zwanzig for coming on multiple times. Of course, the first time being talk about Blitzball. Darmok for coming on 4 times, maybe? Yes, 4 times.
The absolute legend.
She's great, being our PS2 correspondent. Thank you again to Ninnies and Corey.
She calls in and she's like, yeah, he lives in the original PS2 one. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
What? Corey for being our transit and urban planning expert. Shoe Puffs. Thank you to Aaron for coming on for the first time and to talk about Guao Salam and Ghost Dad, and again later to fill out our unscented episode with Mike.
Hell yeah.
Fierce Quail. That was a really fun time. Thank you to Justin Taylor.
Of course.
For A, being on, and B, of course, just supplying the music for this theme music for the season, which always
Thank you
slaps.
for riffs.
Thank you for the riffs. And thank you to Heather and Nina for coming on for our Sudeki Dene episode, which was so good.
That was so good.
Did we mention our first guest ever that came back?
Right after that was Ali.
Hell yeah. That was, you were from a roastery, right?
And of course, we thank you to Mutski Camper as well.
Yep.
Being our other guests, newest guests on the season.
This was a stacked season in terms of guests. That was unbelievable. Thank you so much to everyone who was on. It was an absolute
season was
blast.
Lousy with all stars.
Legends.
All these aeons.
all these aeons.
This is Alex sadly sending all the guests.
Yeah. Yeah. So somewhere all these people are like, what the hell? And they're like dissolving into fireflies. Man. I'm like sad. I don't want to do the sign off. I don't want to do it.
It's been
it's
really
been
cool.
long enough.
Oh, Carl, you.
I think it's time for us to rest, guys.
I believe it is. Well,
Yeah.
Alex, would you like to send us on our way?
Yes. Thank you again to Night of the Round for the theme music. If you guys want to check out the album, this is from course go to nightoftheround.bandcamp.com, and both the intro and outro are from the Sin EP. But you can get the whole discography for like $28, and it's very well worth it because you get everything, including their like total remake of the 7 soundtrack. You get the War of the Triad, which has I think 4, 5, and 6 on there. They have tons of music. They're so good.
All that good shit.
All that good shit. Of course, thank you to Nobuo Uematsu, Masashi Amauzu, and Junya Nakano. That's the last time I'm going to have to say those last two names for a little while, because Nobuo is all on 4.
Nobuo Uematsu.
Masashi Amauzu, Junya Nakano. Yeah.
Wait, how did it go?
Junya Nakano, Masashi
Amauzu, Nobuo Uematsu.
Leave us a review on iTunes if you would like to. I know some of y'all are catching up, so it helps us keep us semi-relevant if we're on hiatus and we get a little bump. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
We also have a Redbubble if you want to check out some B-Sade Aurochs merch that we have online. We also have our, of course, B emoji and Vinyl Fantasy.
Vinyl Fantasy shirt, yeah.
We have, of course, a new Yuffie shirt, Eating Materia. It's very good. I may be thinking up some new designs. I may even stream my art doing that, maybe, just to just keep me motivated, because I got another shirt design I might work on. Even though we're on hiatus, feel free to call us or text us at 530-MATERIA, and find us at EveryFNFF on Twitter, Instagram, sometimes Twitch. We'll mostly just be hosting Carl doing his runs. We also have a Discord. You can find the link to that in the Twitter description. Join the conversation. It's a lot of fun. And as always, X gonna give it to you.
R.I.P. to a real one.
See y'all later.
See you, everyone.